Alright, I hope you guys can hear me alright. I'm using a new recording program and it doesn't tell me how well the mic works. Annoying. Hold on. I may have a solution. Okay, no, it's not helping at all. Anyway guys, I wanted to do a professionalism vid. Basically, it's going to go through what I did to become act more professional, I guess. Because it's a side of you that you need to really develop if you want to actually be able to make your own way in a lot of ways. Because professionalism doesn't just go with what people want you to do. It's also about how you do things when you want to do them professionally. You want to do them to a degree that you are eventually satisfied with. And obviously it's not something you're doing as a hobby. It's something you're doing more because it's what you want to dedicate your life to, I guess. Anyway, I got some stuff written down for you guys for this one. Alright, so for professionalism, for me, it's always been hard to work out how to work for money, which is probably related to how I was introduced to work, that is. My first impression made a huge impact on me, for it had the elements like being yelled at, working in cold, terrible weather, being completely covered in mud. And, well, it kind of goes on from there, but basically my first impressions of working, which is how I'd like to put it, were not exactly good impressions. Frankly, it was not a place I wanted to be, and didn't like it at all in any form. To put the point home, I had that interpretation that it was always like that. And so I always went into jobs with a negative idea of how it was going to be in the first place. And that alone really, really held me back. Anyway, what I did learn from the entirety of doing that and learning to do things that, in a way I like to do them, made it easier to make them professional and make them, I guess one word would be for it is perfection, to what I would want it to be. And that alone was really difficult to do until I realized that if I did it the way I wanted to do it, which really doesn't make much sense to a lot of people when I do things a lot of times, because it's not the way everyone does it. But that doesn't change the fact that when I do it my way, it still works. And not to mention, when I do it my way, it actually comes out better, the more confident I become in my skills. I know for truth that I have a lot of capabilities, but I was always held back by the lack of confidence from others, which really impacted my entire work ethic. Can you imagine constantly being downput for what you're doing and still being able to produce quality work? No, it doesn't work that way. There's that old saying, a happy worker is a good worker. That's for reasons, because when you get appreciated for the work you do, you feel the feelings inside you go, yes. I'm glad I spent the extra 10 minutes on that job, because I wasn't happy with it at the end, and I finished it, or 5 minutes, half an hour, whatever, but as soon as that word's said, it's like, bam, things work out. And it kind of fits in your head a bit better. Anyway, at the time when I started working and attempting to work, I have to admit, emotionally and in myself, I was very undeveloped. I was still trying to deal with the copious amounts of information being just sloshed on me. I didn't really understand this. I never really understood why people wanted money so bad. It still barely just makes sense to me. I would rather live poor for my entire life and actually be happy than be able to work my ass off and make lots of money. as long as I was happy with them, I couldn't ask for more. And actually, I don't. I don't ask for more. That's pretty much all I want. Which is probably along the lines of why I chose to be a scuba instructor instead of something like an engineer or a technician of some type. Pretty handy when it comes to computers and a lot of, in a lot of ways. So I could have been very good with technicians and that. For one instance, I have been building computers since I was a kid, so I've always had a really good knack for how electronics work. Then you give me a gadget and you type like, if I'd never ever seen or heard of an iTouch or an iPad, I'd be able to do very complex things on it if you'd given it to me for half an hour. Now, it's just the way my mind works, and every time someone asks me a question about how to fix something in the computer, I'm always just kind of like, why don't you know this? But then I remember that other people's minds just don't seem to click with it. For instance, I'm constantly being pestered by my mum to help her with computer problems, and half the time all it is just something really simple. So I think she's finally got the hang of, Mum, have you tried turning it on and off? Off and on? Anyway, works out in the end. Anyway, so to summarize for that section, I got a lot of negative input for my first encounter with working, and then I carried that with me through quite a few of the first jobs I did. Anyway, it took a long time till I tried to work again, but eventually when I did, I stayed blind to the benefits of the work as well. Yeah, so I was actually being blind to what I could gain from being a constructive worker and actually being involved in enjoying it. Because I didn't want to get hurt, I didn't want to get punched, I didn't want to get told no, I didn't want to get rejected or judged because of all these things that I just didn't want to do. Anyway, it took me a while. It wasn't until I became very self-aware, which was in my about early 20s, I became self-aware to the point where I started actually having these realizations. Anyway, I slowly been readjusting my views to have a more balanced view on my work ethic, which gave me the chance to make the key principles on my professionalism and work ethic the way I wanted to. Now, to explain this bit is, because my emotional development came later, and my self-awareness came pretty much about the same time as my emotions really started actually to develop, I instantly enough had a more educated ability to choose what I thought was right for me, instead of just developing a habit and then finding out later it was bad, which is kind of handy in a way. Anyway, I had a look around and I looked what other people had chose, and decided that a lot of what other people chose when it came to working just was not what I wanted. A lot of people did choose work for money because they saw money as a way to do things that they did want to do. Where I saw it the other way around was that I'd rather be doing what I wanted to do and make a living out of it. Now, I love the ocean. It's by far one of my favorite places to ever be. I go a little stir crazy when I'm away from it too long as well. And I always wanted to teach. So, putting them two together, I realized it was pretty obvious what I've been wanting to do most of my life. But it took me until I went to Thailand the first time and went diving, and I realized that it wasn't hard to actually fall in love with the ocean and island life to a degree. And that's when I realized that there was an opportunity there for me on Koh Tao to go back and do my dive courses, which is where I've gone to now. And so, basically, to summarize that situation, I picked my principles of doing something I love instead of something I can earn money in. And and that's when everything clicked, because before then I couldn't work for money. It just wasn't what I wanted. And when I went to work, it was half-assed. It was no enthusiasm. I had no reason to get out of bed in the morning except for force of will. And that's just painful as well as wrong to your very soul and core, is to force yourself to do something over and over when you know you don't want to. Don't get me wrong, there's like certain things you do because you know you should. Like washing the dishes, for instance. You do it because you know later you're going to cook food and you need those dishes. Now, I don't see anything wrong with not liking doing dishes, but at the same time, there's no need to shy away from it. But it's something different when you work your life in it. When you're spending the majority of your time in it, it should be something that cleanses you, that makes you feel awesome, that makes you want to get up in the morning and go to work. And I've realized that a lot of people tend to make these habits and get into a routine to the point where they teach themselves that this is what they do. And they become stuck in this routine. I know, because every time I come home and I do some work here in Australia, I end up getting into routines and I get along with the people I do the routines with and whatnot. I start getting comfortable, but then I start freaking out because I know I don't want to be comfortable there. I want to be uncomfortable so that I know that going back to being a scuba instructor is what I'll always be. And I don't care about making glorious amounts of money. That could not inspire me to do anything really. Yeah, I have to be honest, I really wouldn't be inspired if people could offer me a lot of money and I would not do a lot of things. To be honest, I think that even to an extreme, if someone asked me to do a really, really terrible job for a month for $10,000, I'd probably just turn it down. To be honest, it's not because I don't see the opportunity. It's just I know that I would be in pain and suffering during the month because I feel like I'm tearing myself away from what I need to be doing. My mind's very set like that. It kind of goes, okay, this is what you should do, which is based on what everyone else thinks is right for me. And that's where everything goes wrong. And then there's the part of me that goes, what I know I always want to be doing. Now, when I started doing my first level of dive professionalism, which is dive master, or in my case, a dive control specialist, I realized that I did actually get up in the morning wanting to get into it. I didn't go, work, what time do I have to be there? When do I get food? So, do I need to do anything? Do I need to bring anything? I didn't think like that. I woke up in the morning, I stretched in bed, and I was like, alright, better get some food in me. My biggest worry was getting food into me for the day. It wasn't going to work, it was actually getting food because I knew I'd be hungry later. But I knew it was of little consequence. That was like the only thing. Well, once I got into a routine, that was fine anyway. And I loved every minute of it. I still love it. I've just been trying to work out recently where I should go from here because I'm in a little bit of a no zone. I can go back to the island and work with all the people I've been training with and working with back there. Or I could head to a new place and rediscover some new dive sites and learn and teach over there, which would be fantastic. Just not sure where to go. I just got to go on the internet and have a look. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. I've always just, in my mind, I've always seen that happiness doesn't bring love. Gotta love parents, but they call it the wrong times, don't they? Anyway, I'll call him back. Okay, so I know that I never desired money, and I never wanted to desire it. Money doesn't bring happiness. Only you do. You are the one that creates your own happiness. Don't get me wrong, other things impact it, but money should never be viewed as something that gives you happiness. It should be a means to the end that takes you to that if you want to purchase something that you want to do, like flying overseas and stuff like that. But you should never get an attachment to it to the point where you feel you need it. What you should feel you need is food, companionship, drive, a purpose, something to do, something to love, and something to fill you up and actually just make you happy. Anyway, I always realize that when people get attached to money, that's when they start becoming greedy and unmoralistic. I know a lot of people don't see themselves that way, and there's a lot of people I know that I love and care about that don't really see it that way, but I don't think they understand the depths of the sensitivity of their choices. Alright, and I understand that within the system we live in, the social construct of the Western culture, as well as Eastern culture, and is that we use money in everything. It's pretty much the glue for a lot of situations, a lot of reasons and choices. But there's still the fact is you just can't eat it. Money doesn't create food. It encourages people to farm it and provide it. But the simple fact is, if you learn to grow your own crops and sustain yourself individually from the system, you would actually realize that the food we eat out of the shops is not as healthy as the stuff you create and cultivate yourself. This is a realization that I've come to in the last few years, that a lot of the genetic modifications of food is actually quite dangerous for our health. I get reactions to a lot of foods that have been tampered with nowadays, and I can't even drink wine or beer anymore, which I kind of miss because I really enjoy wine, but the preservatives in most wines nowadays really mess with my head. I start getting major headaches. And beer I've had reactions to for a few years now. I'm not sure what it's to do with the preservatives or the yeast, because I have reactions to the strong grains of wheat that we use in large manufacturing. In large agricultural ways. So basically what happens is when I have beer, my throat gets very sore and closes up quite a lot, and my stomach feels really unhealthy and like just unsettled for an entire night. So if I went out with friends and I had a couple of beers, it would ruin my night. I would actually just be like, no, I gotta go home, which is really not fun. Anyway, and so I can't eat wheat products as well. I have to eat only like rice products. And obviously, a lot of speculation on this has led me to the conclusions that when it comes to most wheat products, they've all got these hybrided, very strong, very resilient grain. That is what is being bred in through our culture, through farming cultures for generations, to make a hardy wheat that can last in any terrain with very little water. But unfortunately, that also has the drawback of, this is just an educated guess, but I would say that our bodies are not as attuned to deal with it anymore as they could. In the olden days when we had multiple grains, yeah, it's great that it's resilient to all weather conditions and that, but doesn't that mean that it would be resilient to digestion as well? We're still an organism that processes it. So long as our body can tolerate for a moment, then it'll work out. Anyway, yeah, she's big and tough. She's about this big. Anyway, so I worked out that I wanted gratification, not money. And gratification was all I needed because it not only makes me happy and content, which I then bring that into all other forms of my life, which I can say that a lot of people are pretty impressed with because, well, actually my family, for instance, are very surprised at how I've become a lot more confident and controlled and just my own kind of man person, I guess. But this is because of the gratification from the job. It's forced me to grow, not just adapt. Alright. So, neither are negative in a way. Like, you can choose money over gratification or gratification over money. For instance, teachers obviously have to choose gratification over money, otherwise they're not very good teachers. Sorry to put that out there for you guys, but it's just how it is. Teachers are just so poorly paid. They really should be more well supported, I believe. Though our education system is seriously lacking in diversity to actually deal with the copious amount of individuals of today, along with the amount of input that we've been getting over the last decade, it's just doubled. I mean, how is a kid meant to focus in class when there's such things as games and Facebook and phones and music and all the ads and posters? Oh, fuck the ads. Man, our minds are so sensitive and we're not aware of it. Well, you guys are not. I can't help but being aware of it, which is what confuses me. Half the time I'm distracted by things is because there's just way too much sensory input around me. I think that's probably why I like being on the water so much. It limits a lot of sensory input. At the same time, gives you nice, calm swells of it. Just one of the things I like about diving. Alright. So after you choose which one you more adhere to, being gratification or money gain, obviously money gain has the opportunities for you to get things that you do want, that you do get gratification out. For instance, my dad loves his boat. Now, he got the boat by working hard and paying for it. And every time we go to the beach house or something, he'll take us out on the boat, and he loves it. That's his thing. It's also his, chance to bond with us boys a lot of the time. And he also showed me how to go diving when I was younger. Anyway. Alright, so when I tried to work out what I wanted to do, I used a very basic system, and it was basically, I took points that are really simple. I'm going to give you the points for why I chose scuba diving, and that, in the scuba diving chapter, is A, teaching has always been something that I like, and it's really fulfilling to me, to have people hear what I have to say, and apply it to real life actualities. Which they do have to do in scuba diving. It's really a sport where people actually do have their own lives in their hands to a degree. I'm obviously taught a lot of things to minimize any possible error in communication, as well as lack of control within the group until the person has enough experience to understand why. So I think that's hugely fucking cool. And B, it's exciting and challenging with no, I can't even read my own writing at the moment. It's mostly because of my spelling. Anyway, it's because of, it's got a lack of monotony in it. A job I'm currently doing just to get some money together so I can fly back overseas is very, very boring. It's do this, then do this, repeat, do this. Yeah, you can see how it goes. Where when you're working with students, it's amazing that you have to teach fully developed adults, really basic things, and you have to treat them like children, but at the same time you can't. So with every personality difference, it's a new challenge for me, and I've always loved the dynamics of people's personalities. It's always been an interest for me, especially because like years ago I was just didn't know social stuff at all. I couldn't understand people socially. So it's one of my drives that has now turned into one of my saving graces. It's really handy for me as being an instructor. It makes me really receptive to being able to pick people when they're anxious or not confident in a skill as well, because that means I can pick up on it straight away, work with them, and then get them through it. Alright. And see, it combines so many things that I love, like the sea, the beach, the ocean, the sun, marine life as well. Anyway, so that was me ranting about why I love my job so much, really. But I have to just make the main points clear to you guys, is that when it comes to professionalism, I think the best choice is to go with the things you love. Something it's not easy to be able to choose it to a point. It's really difficult to tell until you actually commit to stuff. So don't be afraid to commit to jobs that you think might be good. And while you're working at it, if you had a lot of trouble with being confident and stuff like that, which I did to a point, especially with my career, with doing this, you need to keep yourself up. Basically, if you're telling yourself, you can do this, you've got this. For instance, this is what I told me. And you feel it, you actually go, yeah, I think I can. That's a pretty promising sign that you've found something you really enjoy. Because I was going through some heavier stuff, and I can tell you the intensive course that I did for the instructors was really full on. And it put a lot of challenges to me that I'd always had trouble through with school. But so much of the fun and enjoyable stuff that I really got into just pulled me through the bits I hated and struggled with. Like the academic side of it, doing academic presentations, I did struggle. I really did. Because it was in a concept of using English language in a structured form that used simplicity a little too much to my capabilities. I'll explain that later. It's more of a complex understanding on how to use English language. But anyway, it forced me to focus on actually just delivering information more simpler. Obviously, I'm not doing that for you guys because I love confusing you guys and making you really think outside the box. But unfortunately, when you're teaching people scuba diving, not helpful. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I plan to do a lot more in the next month or so. I haven't got internet at the moment, but I'm making these recordings at home, and then I'm uploading them at like my friends' places when I get around there. Alright guys, I hope you're all well, and I hope you're still watching.